Welcome to our 2026 vegetable garden planning session here. I'm going to walk you through what I'm planning for my vegetable garden this year. I will walk you through what layout I have so you have a point of reference on how many plants I grow and why. I will walk you through my seed starting schedule and every variety I'm planning to grow. So grab a coffee, sit down, relax, maybe have a notebook out if you want to take some notes, but I'll try to put all the varieties down in this description. Otherwise, I'm happy to have you here and let's get going. I'm Stephanie, I'm a home gardener here in Attleboro, Massachusetts. It's zone 6 and I love to take you along for the ride. So welcome to my channel. So let's start with the garden layout. My vegetable garden is everything what is in those large L's. So the 6 beds, which you see here, are all for vegetable gardening. The beds in the bags are all large 4x8 beds, so that's a lot of growing real estate. And then the Vigo beds in the second row, basically in the core of my garden, are 2 larger ones, which are the 3.5 by 7.5 one. That's like that 9 modular set in one of those varieties, and then the skinny bed is in 1.5 feet by 7.5 feet bed. So it's a sizable garden for our family of 4. Usually I don't buy many vegetables in the summer, which we love and we can and preserve a lot, and that will be a theme through my video here with you guys as well. So let me walk you through what I have planned for each bed so we can look at this. And I typically use my digital garden journal for that because it's fun with the stickers and everything, so you can play around and really find the configuration you like. If you're curious to learn more about this journal, I have also a link below there. But let's get going with the beds. So we'll start on the outside with the wooden bed. So I'm rotating those beds through every year so that I have somewhat of a crop rotation methodology with it to ensure that I don't collect somehow like soil diseases or anything there. And so far it always has served me well. So in bed 1 this year, we have our tomatoes back in this bed. And last year I switched to a setup with the large cages, which worked surprisingly well. I really enjoyed that, and the tomatoes looked like they enjoyed it too because I had really high yields. The only thing what I did was that I was shading out my peppers more than in the other configuration because it's a little wider, so it's like pushing a little bit more to the outside line than what I've done with my trellis growing before, where they were a little bit more compact and like vertical focus in like vertical reach. So they had like on the bottom a little bit more space, and that kind of, I thought it might be still that kind of space, but it wasn't. So my peppers didn't really have a chance last year. So we're correcting that because we have also sun coming basically from the bottom of what you see here. This is why I am creating a little bit of like a space where the peppers can grow on the low side and then have everything taller, aka the tomatoes, behind it so nothing can shade them out. With that, I dropped 1 tomato plant to give just the peppers a little bit more space because also I had, so the 6 tomatoes on the top of the bed are the large round cages and heirloom varieties, which get like big and wild, indeterminate varieties. So they need the large cages to really be properly supported. But the 6 horizontal one I had last year were the more skinnier cages, metal cages from Gardener's Supply there. And what we had with those ones is I had such a hard time to reach the second row in the middle. So I skipped basically, so we're making like a U-shape situation with the cages so I can still hopefully reach the tomatoes, and then on the bottom we have a pepper of sorts. So that is why it looks a little bit wonky here, but I hope this will work well, and with the sun direction it actually should work well. So we shall see, but you'll see the top 3 ones are the heirloom tomatoes. We have 5 paste tomatoes in this bed, 5 sweet peppers, and then I tuck in usually a few basil plants at the corners and where some space as well, and that has worked pretty well. So moving on to bed 2, this is one bed which is double duty for my garden because it is my allium bed the garlic is already growing there since, when did we plant the garlic? I think end of October or beginning of November. That's typically when I put it in. This year I was smarter because in past years I was just not able to get through my garlic harvest from last year, and we have still like, I think like 15 15 garlics sitting down there. I reduced the amount by half of what we're growing, so we truly have only what we need for the year. Because one thing which I always run out of so far was onions. I know it's not a sexy vegetable, but it's one which I use almost every day in the kitchen, sometimes multiple times or more than one, right? So it's just a very, very practical one for me, and they grow really easy for me. They store well. I still have a few ones downstairs, but we're nearing the end and we're in February, so that's kind of sad. It's not a full double up, but it's like 25% more space. So we shall see how much we're getting in there. And then that bed will be flipped to a carrot bed once that is harvested. So that is just something what we'll do then in beginning of August. I always hope I have a rainy day or a rainy week in August, so I can just sprinkle my carrot seed and let them just do their thing. It has worked well if I had that week. And if I wasn't tired enough to forget to put the fence around like last year, because the bunnies went through the carrots and we didn't have much or many in the end. So anyhow, so we'll do better this year, I promise. And then bed 3 is also slightly double duty because it's a spring and then in late summer bed. So in spring, I typically grow my snap peas in the middle of it. And this year I'm trying my hand again at some broccoli because my little garden helper will be around this season as well, Lily. And she's growing in the skinny bed, which I have, so that's Lily's bed now. And she wanted to grow broccoli, and then I'm not just growing 2 broccolis for her, so I was like, nah, I'll stick a few in this bed too. So we'll have some broccoli here, and then I just like to line the snap peas with some lettuce, which is like really, really quick turnover. That bed should be done ideally by end of June, and then this will get flipped into, and this is the biggest change I've done in this setup from those 3 large rotating beds. Last year I tried to grow watermelon, which I miserably failed and that was a really, really sad thing. I think I had like in total 3 or 4 watermelons out of a lot of plants, and yeah, let's just leave it at that. That was a very big disappointment. I always think about how I can make my garden setup more simple because I travel a lot for business, which means my family here has to do the harvesting and the upkeep when I'm gone. So I'm always like trying to make that as easy as possible with that in mind. And then also preservation wise, I prefer to have like produce which I can somewhat preserve easily or preserve in a way which we like to use. And this year I'm trying my hand on dry beans. So what we're basically doing is once we flip that spring bed into a summer bed, I will plant a whole bunch of dry beans in there, so like 70% dry beans, and then I'll leave a small corner for another try of cucumbers because they don't like me either. So, but we'll see how that goes. But I think that should be good because the dry beans are just bush beans, which you let grow until they're done and dried out, so you really don't have anything to do with them until you harvest them at the end of the season when they're dried up. And then of course you want to shell them. That's a little bit more work, but I think in total of the work, I think it's less in the end. So we shall see. And then for my Vigo beds, I'll keep what I have as my standard setup. I'm just flipping that every year, and that has worked so well in the past few seasons that I'm really not touching it. I'm just playing with the varieties I'm growing there, but the amount of plants and the like the order of plants has been steady there for quite some time. But so the first one will be my squash bed and some cucumbers and eggplants. And then this has like, so this comes together over an arch, and this has like 3 rows of pole beans right at the arch to grow over. And last year that was my best bean year ever for those pole beans. I think in total I almost harvested, I think it was like 12 or 13 pounds of beans just from this one bed, which was awesome. And they're so good. I love them. They freeze very well. We had them for Thanksgiving. Always makes my heart happy when we have like Thanksgiving beans from the garden. So that was just wonderful. And then as everywhere, I'll tack a few basil plants here in as well. And then the tomato and hot pepper bed. Hot pepper is with an asterisk because we're not a super spicy household. Although I did start to like hot sauce more in the last few months, so I might change my mind on that. But for now, our hot peppers are like jalapenos and poblano peppers, so it's not super hot peppers. But anyway, we have in this bed 4 more paste tomatoes just as a second row snuck in there, and then the peppers on the outside, and right at the arch, this is where we have the cherry tomatoes, and 3 for us are plenty. I typically always like dehydrate some, I can some in some salsa, and then we still are swimming in a lot of cherry tomatoes for us to eat. So, but this is what we're doing in terms of planning for how many plants we have in the garden. All right, let's move on to the varieties I'm growing. I'm going in the order of what I start first, and then I'm going through it. And I'll show you at the end my seed starting plan to just go through that as well. But that will be rather quick, but that will come after. So let's start talking about the varieties. For the onions, I'm going to start those ones end of February, so just a couple weeks, 3 weeks out-ish. And I'll keep it simple. Simplicity will be a big theme here. I'm mostly growing, I would say like 70% of what I've grown in terms of variety last year. But where's the fun if you don't add a few new things, right? So for the onions, my forever favorite is the Isla Greg. It's just one really nice onion. It's not a super large onion, which is great because we are not like the massive, like super sized onion eaters here. But I love like, it's like an tennis ball size onion on average, which is the perfect size for us. And they store very well. Then I always love to have at least a few red onions as well. We don't use red onions by far as often as our yellow onions, but I would say like 15% of the onions will be red onions, and the red carpet there is again one which stores for us here really well if they are cured nicely after harvest, which we'll see in the summer when I'm harvesting them how to cure them properly. But once they are cured properly, they're usually really storage resistant. And then a new to me one, but I heard good things. I started following More Than Farmers this year, and they were raving about the Patterson onion. So I'm curious to see how well it does. They have very similar climate than what we have here because I think they're Ohio, also zone 6. So that should be hopefully a good one. So I'm curious to see that. And it gets really good ratings also for like how long it stores. So that is this one. Then in the broccoli department, I'm going back to one which I've grown before and which did very well for us. It's also a fast growing one because I want to flip those bats over pretty quick, and that's the Bell Star. This has been one which worked really well. This is going to get started probably in the first week of March to have an early plant out date by end of April here, roughly. And then also what we start relatively early in March is the peppers. So for the hot peppers, I have the Poblano variety Basil. This was by far for the last 2 seasons the most productive pepper plant in my garden. It grows tall, It was easily like a 4 feet tall plant at the end, and it was cranking out peppers like nobody's business. Like, I wish all my pepper plants were that vigorous. Really, really beautiful plants, and we love poblanos. We like them to fill them up and bake them and stuff. So really, really great. Wonderful pepper plant. Then the jalapeno black magic, because I love to do some cowboy candy. Last year they didn't do super well. Again, here and there a few ones were shaded out, so they didn't have much of a chance. I hope that it will be better this year. Otherwise, I will supplement from the farmers market like I did last year for the cowboy candy canning situation. But I just love those, like for like on hot dogs or just on a sandwich for like this spicy sweet crunch on it. Ugh, so good. And then a new to me variety as well for pickling peppers with a little bit of a punch to it as well, because I love that cowboy candy so much. But pepperonici, and it's called Paisin or Pasian as a variety. So we shall see. They gotta make sure I don't accidentally mix them up with the shishito peppers, because on the picture they look kind of similar. I would expect those ones to be a little bit bigger than the shishito ones, so we shall see. But yeah, I'm excited to have maybe a nice pickling pepper there. And then when we think about the sweet peppers, I shuffled that deck a little bit around again. Last year they didn't do great, but the few ones I got also didn't blow me away. So I'm trying another Italian frying pepper, the Carmen. Lunchbox red pepper. So those are the small ones. I have the smaller ones, might crank out a little bit more peppers to put them in salads. That is where I use most of my sweet peppers, just eating them fresh with some cottage cheese or putting them in a salad. That's really where we use them the most. Or like the shishito on the grill. That's one of my favorite things to do, to roast them on a grill with just a little bit of soy sauce. Ugh, delicious. Ugh, delicious. And then the Yankee Bell is just a classic bell pepper. So we shall see. And then also something what I start relatively early-ish, because I'm attempting to do succession growing with the lettuce, because I can't sit on, like, how many lettuce did I plant here? Like, I don't know, 12 or 16 heads of lettuce all at the same time. That won't fly. We won't eat that. So we got to stagger that of some sort a little bit. But for the lettuce, I have from my favorite friends at row 7, the Tegan, which I grew last year, and it's so delicious. Again, like you have me heard talking about them before, right? If you've been a minute around here, row 7 grows all of their seed varieties for taste. And the Tegan was no exception. Really delicious, super crunchy, also easy to clean. Lettuce, which I really like. And they have 2 new varieties, which I haven't tried yet, which I'm super excited about. And that's the Dino lettuce and spinach lettuce, which looks like spinach, grows like lettuce. So we shall see. I'm super excited. And then my true tried and favorites from Johnny's, the Zelenova red butter and green butter. They are just the most gorgeous, perfect head lettuce. You chop them up and they're just like perfection. And they also give you a little bit of grace. You don't need to like harvest them like straight. They actually like don't go bad when they just sit around in the garden for a little longer while, and are also relatively robust when it comes when you get some hot days early in the season. So they don't bolt on you as fast as other varieties in my experience. All right, and then right after the lettuce, we will start eggplants probably like in mid-March. And I'm the only one who eats eggplant in this family, so I only have two plants for it. And the ones which I've grown in the past, which I love because it's beautiful, is the Anina with a beautiful striped large, classically large fruit, but the outside is so beautiful. And then a piccolo, it's a smaller variety. So, and my favorite thing to do with eggplants is also to grill them. And they're just so delicious in the summer. Then moving on to the peas. I don't start those ones inside, but end of March or like when the soil is workable again here for us in New England, which usually is like end of March, beginning of April, I plant them out direct seeded in the bed. And this is usually first week of April at the latest, but typically somewhere at the end of March. And my two varieties I'm growing this year is the sugar and snap pea, just a classic snap pea, and then also another row 7 variety, the Beauregard purple snow pea. And this one is a beautiful one. It is a rather short variety, so make sure you grow them or you arrange the plants so they are not getting shaded out by something taller, because they are only like 3 feet tall-ish. But with that, they almost don't need any staking. Like I have like 1 or 2 stakes around it, but other than that, they're like kind of self-supporting each other. But they have like beautiful, beautiful purple snow pea pods. And the cool thing with them is they even stay purple when you like cook them in the pan, which is really, really rare with purple veg. That usually turns brown in the pan, but it's really one of the fun things with this. And they're gorgeously delicious too. Can highly, highly recommend. One thing what I always love to grow as well is of course basil. You've seen me tucking it in everywhere. And I'm only growing one culinary basil variety anymore for like eating and salads and whatsoever, or caprese, and that is the Everleaf Emerald Tower. I've never seen such a beautiful flower resistant and just like happy basil plant no matter what the weather was. So it just grows totally unbothered most of the season. At the end of the season, when it starts to get like chilly in the mornings again, that's where it starts to get a little bit grumpy, but up to that point it's completely unbothered. It doesn't like go to seed so quickly like you have it with other varieties. It tastes great. It doesn't get bitter, and it produces wild amounts of basil. So we have like pesto in the summer and just like really, really great. I'll dry usually a large batch of it as well for to have some dried basil around here in the kitchen over the winter. Great variety. I can highly, highly recommend it. And one new to me variety, because it goes in the tea garden, but I'll flag it as like a culinary version, it's holy basil, which is supposed to be delicious in tea too. So we'll grow that as well. And then we're already here at the tomato section, which I know you've been waiting on, which is always my favorite section as well. Let's move on with the cherry tomatoes. The Sun Gold is my forever grow. It's my most perfect bite of tomato, which at the moment I'm dreaming hard of. Whenever I think of summer, like the taste of the Sun Gold comes to mind like right away. So the Sun Gold is one which I really, really love. I am trying another orange one, but it's more like a grape cherry tomato next to it, or like a grape-shaped one, which is the Golden Sweet. And then the Sun Peach, which is more like a pink. I'm not sure why it's called peach in the name, but it's more like a pink, reddish grapevine, a cherry tomato. So we shall see. You know, I'm typically like rotating out like 1 or 2 varieties always for the cherry tomatoes to try out more varieties. But also in the last few years, like the ones I tried never fully like made me want to do them again, except for the Sun Gold. So, and then when we look at the paste tomatoes, that is where we had a few more entries this year, because my most favorite paste variety wasn't available at High Mowing Seed, and I'm really, really sad about it. And I just used my last seeds last year, but once I see it coming in again, I'll for sure buy new ones. And that was always like my Plum Perfect, which I've grown as my main paste tomato for previous years, because the name was a game. Perfectly plum shaped, massive amounts of paste tomatoes. So love, love, love them. But can't do anything about it. So we have some new ones. The only 2 which we're regrowing from last year is the San Marzano, because that one did for me last year also pretty well. And my lovely Midnight Roma, which I love. It is never one which produces great yields, and it always comes in late. So I usually just grow 1 or 2 plants from it maximum. But I just love it, how it looks and how it tastes. So it's a forever grow for me, but it's not one which I grow for its performance. But then in terms of paste varieties, I got just classic Roma VF. I have no idea what the VF stands for, but that's the name. Then another one which is called Cusco from Johnny's, which looks also just like a large plum type tomato, and then one which is called Chipolas Pride, which I just like the name. They had like they were like all the new varieties were ranking high on the disease resistance, because that was what was taking out my tomatoes in previous years rather quickly. So we'll try to see if we can do something about that this year, but we shall see how that aligns with my simplicity targets. And then in the heirloom department, those are just three which I have here. Again, like I was just not in the mood to search for massive amounts of new tomatoes, and the ones I have here are just so dear and near to my heart that I just kept them. And one is the pink boar. It's a smaller tomato variety, but so beautiful and so tasty. The Harvest Moon, that is a rather large one, a yellow one with beautiful red veining, and the taste is like nothing I've tasted in a tomato before. It's like a rather creamy tomato taste. You gotta like it. It's not acidic at all, but for me that is the most perfect sandwich tomato. Even more perfect than the Cherokee Purple, which is the last one here on the list. But I love them really much, and the Harvest Moon is a forever grow these days for me because of that special taste, and it produces pretty well too for me. So I really enjoyed that last year. And then moving on to the squash, as you might know as well, I only grow one squash variety, and that is from my friends from row 7, the center cut squash, because it's the only squash in my opinion which tastes good. Like in terms of like fresh eating squash, or like summer squash varieties. You could grow it out in terms of a winter squash and make it last, but it's more recommended to eat it like a zucchini, so like in a summer squash variety. That variety produces like wild. It's like the most productive ones. I feed here our town with it all summer long, because the overload of those plants goes to the food bank here locally. And it's just massive amounts of really delicious fruit. And the one reason why that is the only squash variety I'm growing is because it is squash vine borer resistant. So this pesky bug which like goes in and like eats the plants from the inside out and make them die super quick has no business with that one, because the stems are too thick for it to make it through the all the way to the base and kill it. So beautiful plant all around. And then the second to last categories are my cucumbers. I'm still trying hard, even though they don't like me. And if you have any cucumber growing tips, please drop them for me below, because I'm starting to get desperate. For me, cucumber beetles take them out in no time, typically like literally like 4 weeks after I had 1 or 2 cucumbers per plant. It's sad. It's really sad. But again, if you have some tips, don't sit on them, share them. Sharing is caring, you know. So I have a few small ones, the mini me and the quick snack. Those got like really cute little like salad cucumbers. The other one, which is a rather sizable one, a slicer, it's called Salad More, which is a bush variety. And then I'm trying out in Chinese variety for the first time. Maybe that is working better for me here. It's called Suju Long. And then one which we grew last year already as well was the Mani, which is a slicer as well. So we shall see. It's a mixed bag of different varieties, and maybe this year we have a little bit more luck. And then in terms of beans, the one which outperformed everything last year in the Vigo bed over the orge. I had only one variety there because it's my favorite one. It's the most perfect green bean as a pole bean in my opinion, but it's a Seychelles. It's perfection. It is the perfect size, shape, skinny, doesn't have a string. It's just gorgeous and delicious and freezes super easy and super well, like the perfect green bean in my opinion. And so that's going into the Vigo bed as well again. Then we have like a tree-colored one for lily, which is called Mardi Gras, which is a bush bean. And then for the first time, those dried bush beans for me. And I picked the Calypso and a variety which called Tiger's Eye, and both I only ordered because they looked so pretty. So, and we're a bean variety which we'll eat here hopefully. So, yeah, I'm excited to see how much we'll get out there, if it's worth like giving basically a full bat to that, but I'm very, very much excited for it. So, and then let me just, as a summary here before I let you go, let me pull up here my seed starting plan to just give you the timing for everything when I'm planning it. So for the onions, I mentioned that already. It is probably the last weekend of February where I'm going to start them. And they typically get transplanted out end of April-ish, like, which is usually like 3 to 4 weeks before I plant everything else out. There's still a chance of frost. If a frost is coming, I usually throw something over, but that has worked well for me in the past years. Brassicas, exactly the same thing, except that they grow a little bit faster. That's why we start them like a couple weeks after the onions, so typically like beginning of March, and same transplanting time window with April. The lettuce, I'm trying to do succession planting here. The first round goes out with the brassicas, and then we have another round basically 4 weeks removed. So wish me luck for that if that is going to work out how I'm planning it to. Then for the peppers are the one vegetable which takes the most time, at least for me, but they always grow super well. They like it warm, they like warm feet. So that's the ones which I typically keep on the heat mat for the entirety of the indoor experience, and I'll start them beginning of March, and they go out with everything this year end of May. So typically I aim like for a May 15th time window to transplant. That usually works well with our climate around here. This year with all the snow we're having, I'm kind of feeling like it's might be a little later in general with like garden kickoff and gardening start, but also I have most likely in large work event in Europe beginning of May. So I gotta think how I'm like, I can't start like hardening off when I'm not here. So that is something what I've like have weeded into my plans here. So I'm planning currently to plant everything out on Memorial Day weekend, which is the last weekend in May for us here, which again, is just a week later than I usually do it, and that is not a big deal. The eggplants, I'll start mid-March to end of May transplanting tomatoes. Do not start tomatoes before April. I know people love to get started with tomatoes, but if I do them any earlier than in the first week of April, I have like 3 feet tall tomatoes. Tomatoes don't like to be transplanted that tall. So you want to have them, you want to have pretty sturdy, happy tomato seedlings and not like leggy, sad, large tomato seedlings. Just trust me there. First week of April within transplant date of end of May is more than enough time for your tomatoes. Trust me. And then the cucumbers, they are a little bit removed because they are going into the spring batch. So they are literally the squash and the cucumbers are the last things I'll start. Typically beginning of May, with a plan to transplant them in June, end of June outside. And they are growing pretty quick as well. I'm not doing very well here with like direct seeding anything other than beans and peas for some reason. I'm not sure if it's like the birds or so, if they're picking the seeds out of it, or squirrels or anything else. So those are still things which I like to grow in pots in a more like environment which I have regulated. But yeah, so that is pretty much the plan. So we looked at how many plants I'm planning, what I'm going to grow, and what timing I'm growing here. So I hope that was very helpful. If you're a beginner and have any questions, please don't hesitate to put them below. or if you have any other questions, I always love to chat with you in the comments. Otherwise, subscribe and watch another video. Thank you.